Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. This is our normal Tuesday night show. Last week we had to move to Wednesday, but tonight is our Tuesday night show. So thanks for joining us. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of it comes from Idaho. We have a couple of recent filings in the Chad Daybell matter. We brought it to you last week when it happened, but I think it's worthy of a little more discussion. And then also the motion filed by the district attorney saying, hey, remember when we screwed up in Lori Vallow's case? Will you please allow us to change that now so that we don't look silly doing it at the end of our last witness in our case in chief? Yep, they're trying to amend the indictment. Indictment, not a complaint and information, which can be amended by a simple motion. An indictment is not meant to be quickly pen changed because that's, it's not supposed to be easy. It was purposely designed and set up that way. And Idaho's like, well, if it doesn't really matter, and if it's just a pen change and they're not really, well, like Lori Vallow, their attorney said that it was prejudicial when they made a change to a subsection in the statute that they were planning on defending, and the court allowed it. I think that's a huge appellate issue. We'll see if I'm right. What do I know? I'm just some guy that's been trying cases for the last 28 years in both state and federal court. I don't know anything that I'm talking about, right? We'll see. Obviously, the judge doesn't want to, what is he going to do? Deny it? But it just shows you when they say you can indict a ham sandwich, the time that Lori Vallow went to trial from the time that the indictment came down was over a year and a half, and they didn't realize that they were prosecuting her under the wrong statute for a year and a half. How is that not prejudicial to the defense? You can say, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. It's sloppy. It makes the prosecutors look like a bunch of amateurs. So does the most recent move by them. So we'll talk about that. We also have the Bryan Kohberger matter. The 1 year anniversary was Monday, when obviously the homicides took place, and obviously now Bryan Kohberger is charged. But whether you believe the DNA on Bryan Kohberger is on the little K-bar sheath, the little button right here, obviously it makes sense. If you were putting a K-bar in there, is it going to be on top, or is it going to be, closing it is when you would grasp it, right? Because it just shows you, what talk show, what video podcast, what host just happens to have a K-bar knife that, every Marine has, right? Well, probably because we're the best show, true crime talk show, right? And we just happen to have one. Everyone else, oh, here's a picture of a K-bar. I just happen to bring you mine. I've had this since 1988, ladies and gentlemen, and it's still here. Just happened to show you that, right? That's where they supposedly got the little DNA. But regardless of whether you think Bryan Kohberger's DNA was there, which according to at least the Idaho lab, or the people that did it for the Idaho, they say that is Bryan Kohberger's DNA. Assuming that's true, for the sake of argument, the one question that the prosecutors have been unable to identify in any of their motions thus far, unless, of course, I've missed it. Let me know if I have, but I don't think I have, because we follow it pretty closely. Why? That's the $1 million question, is it not? The $64 million question. We'll give Bryan Kohberger the presumption of innocence. We will. Everybody's entitled to that. All right? Now, the prosecutors don't have to prove motive. Right? Nowhere in a charging document do the prosecutors have to prove a motive. They have to prove that it was the defendant on or about the date and place charged, that the conduct was unlawful, and they usually have to prove the mental state, and basically the result, obviously, somebody died in this particular case, right? But nowhere does the prosecution have to prove a motive. But let's just take a quick look at this DNA thing in the Bryan Kohberger matter. The defense says, really? A little DNA on this little thing that doesn't, and it's just the sheath. Oh, you can practically find those anywhere. And that wouldn't surprise me. That sheath is, of course you're going to find somebody's DNA on there. Do you know how many people's DNA were probably in that residence, that apartment? It's a party house. People come and go as they please. That's the defense argument. Of course you're going to find it. It's a party house, and he probably attended parties during that time period at some point, which would reasonably explain why the DNA was there. Prosecutor says, no, it's definitive. It's conclusive. It's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The reason that they find the DNA on the sheath of the K-bar underneath the victim is because Bryan Kohberger is the person that did it. Okay? Now, like I said, prosecutors don't have to prove an element of the offense that says why somebody did it. Right? Don't have to prove that. Just the elements. That the defendant, on or about the date and place charged in this jurisdiction, committed an act with a requisite mental state, knowingly, recklessly. Basically, you knew what you were doing, aware of your conduct, practically certain to cause the result. Took the life of another person without any legal defenses. Nowhere is motive. So where is the motive? What is the motive? Why would Bryan Kohberger go to that house and ultimately kill 4 college students that, the prosecution's going to have to, people are going to know why this house? Why them? Why go to all that trouble to do that to these individuals? Put it in the comments. What do you think his motive is? There's been nothing out there. Was he, rejected? Was his social advances rejected? Maybe asked her out maybe asked any one of the young ladies to go out and reject him. Was that, oh my God, that happens all the time in college, does it not? Every guy is like, hey, what's your name? Where do you go to school? You want to go out? Right? That's what they do. We'll see. Zizo6. If the BK's DNA was transferred by someone else to the sheath, then there would be the DNA along with the BK's DNA. Oh, you're saying a mixture. That's true. Unless, because we don't know exactly, we just know that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was there. It doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't a mixture, but just because you have a mixture doesn't mean you can't identify one. And you could say, well, there could be a mixture of an unidentified person. We don't know that yet. And this is what I hate about court systems that don't let people in the community have access to all the pleadings. If it was meant to be returned to the court, that should mean it is a public record. A public record that up until a few years ago, when everybody got you're going to have confidential information. Whoa. Okay, redact the confidential. Who puts in a social security number anymore? Nobody. Okay, you can do a search on just about anything and find out somebody's address, location, their phone number, their email address. I certainly know you could if you went to crimetalksearch.com. I know you can do that. So where's the big privacy interest? Like I said, nobody's identified by their last 4 digits of their social security number anymore. Nobody cares. Let's see what is returnable. It's public information. The court system is meant to be in the public domain so that people can do it. That's how we keep checks on the court system. That's how we know what the heck is going on in the court system. We had a little thing here years ago in Colorado where judges, if they're like, well, he's a upstanding member of the community, we're going to seal that court record so nobody else can get into it. Oh, really? Because you're not sealing, the indigent defendants' court records that could have something embarrassing for them in there. It's a public record, and it's supposed to be able to stand up to scrutiny. The prosecution's case, the defense motions. I mean, think about all the cases. When you go to these court filings, they're lucky if we get a third of what is actually filed because everybody is all concerned about, oh, it's their privacy interest. It's a public record. Look at all the judge in the Delphi case, Judge Gull, has basically stricken things from the record because she doesn't like them. She didn't like the defense attorney's motions, basically laying out their theory, whether she liked it or not. If she thought it was total hogwash, then you know what? Then let the jury reject it at trial. That's what it's there for. It's not the judge to say, oh, this is not going to be sufficient. I'm going to kick these attorneys off and I'm going to seal the transcript so nobody knows what's going on. It is a public record of public officials, of people being paid at court expenses, at the public expense. They should be allowed. The public, we should be allowed to see it. And there got to be a really good reason for it not to be available to the public. We don't get all the discovery usually until the cases are over, but you should still be able to see all the motions and filings and be able to glean from the case what is going on when you read those motions. That's what you should be able to do. But they don't do it. Another one of my pet peeves is I think there should be cameras in every courtroom. You can go back to all my early videos. I said they should have cameras in every courtroom. Heck, I think there should be cameras in every public building that we should be able to watch and see what everybody's doing in their office. They work for the people. I think the people should be allowed to see. The people should be allowed to see what those government employees are doing. I really do. They work for the government. We should be able to know. It's called accountability. The courts should have it. They should be able to show us what's going on. Heck, even the United States Supreme Court, although they're a little slow in adapting and changing, they at least put out an audio version of all of their oral arguments the day after, or later in that day of it. Right? There's a big, the case involving former President Trump. He said, hey, put my trial on TV. The 10th Circuit there in the D.C. Circuit, they do what the Supreme Court does. You can get an audio recording at the end of the day. Maybe it's time the federal courts put it out there. If the case is so overwhelming against the former president, let us see. If he thinks it is a weak case, let us see. Let's have the people decide. Let's have the people hear all the evidence against it. It's no different if the guy is the former president or if he's Joe Schmuckatelli sitting in a courtroom and nobody from his family shows up. We should be allowed to watch the courtroom. We should be allowed to see what takes place. All right. So you can see we've got a lot to talk about. Let me know in the comments. We'll try to hit them all. It goes by fast. We don't beg for super chats, but if you do highlight them, guess what? We will, try to get them up and answered. So let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Please Go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to crimetalksearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. All right, we are back. Yes, go to crimetalksearch.com. Get that background subscription service. I know, yes, it's a promotion, but we also use it here, okay? And I can tell you every now and then something comes up. The lovely Miss Kristen will say, can I get that password? Let me search somebody. And boom, information comes up. And sometimes it's better than even what the private investigators can do. It's getting that good. And if somebody new is coming into your life, I'm telling you, go check them out. A quick Google search doesn't do it. Go check that out. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Yes, there's a fee, but you can use it as long as you have it. You can cancel it anytime. And you'll be surprised what comes up. Hopefully, if somebody new is coming into your life, they're hopefully very boring. No criminal history, no arrests. Hopefully very boring. That's a good thing. That is a very, very good thing. All right. Kumi B. BK, Bryan Kohberger, was stalking the girls as well on social media. Okay, but why? Why? What's the okay, let's say he was stalking all of the girls on social media. Okay. But why? Does that mean that, he's their killer? I don't know. I think most people think that's it, but we got to give them the presumption of innocence. Do we not? Yes, we do. The big question is why. Understand, it's not an element of the offense. It's not something the prosecutor has to prove, but juries usually want to know, well, okay, even if I think he did it, why? It doesn't make any sense. Why go after these girls? Why go after, the three girls, the boyfriend? Was he, collateral damage? Were they all collateral damage? Was it supposed to be just one? What would make you think that, hey, this would be a good idea to go in and try and kill somebody? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Guy's a little weird. Hey, but if being weird was a crime, that would probably fit a lot of people in our culture, would it not? In our society? Yeah, I'd probably, some people would say, well, Scott's kind of weird too. Like, why does he have a K-bar? They just happen to have hanging around. Well, because we brought it in the Bryan Kohberger case. We're trying to give you a comparison. Like, this is a knife. But no, this is a real knife, right? And then, hold on, I think we got one more. Yeah, but in the back. And then you got this kind of knife. Not so big of a knife, right? Little utility knife. You flip it out, you open boxes with it, something along those lines. Don't want to get in YouTube trouble again. So we'll keep it in this little thing. But look, that's there. You got the various sizes. Like, that's a knife. That's a knife. Or is this really a knife? You compare, right? Don't get me wrong. All three are definitely could be considered a deadly weapon. All right, what's the question there in the super chat, Frank? Let's see here. Can you explain how immunity works for Wendy? Immunity works for Wendy. Which Wendy? I'm sorry. Am I having a little brain freeze here? Well, normally, I mean, when somebody's granted immunity, that means that they are not going to get prosecuted for what they testified to. If you're a key witness in the case, which case is it?
This is the Florida.
Oh, the Adelson Markle case. Is that it?
The Florida law professor who was murdered.
Yeah. Okay.
The mother.
Okay. Yeah. The mom. Well, she just got arrested, right? The grandmother. Yeah, she just got arrested today, I think, is what.
She was arrested in Miami.
Yeah.
Miami International Airport.
Oh, was she getting ready to fly out, right? She was getting ready to fly.
Vietnam.
Yeah. But that's not her name, right? Wendy, or is it?
Yeah. I just like Wendy.
Okay. Well, normally when immunity testifies, you got to get an agreement from the government. Why? Because the government's the one that can give you the immunity. They're the ones that are going to prosecute you. And they say, hey, we need your help. We may think that you're a scumbag, lying piece of garbage, but you're that lying scumbag piece of garbage that we need to get the bigger lying scumbag piece of garbage. So we're going to cut you a break. We're going to give you immunity for you to testify as to what your involvement was in a particular incident, and we're not going to prosecute you. Or we're going to agree to something in advance that we're not going to prosecute you for the more serious crime that you're going to be admitting to on the witness stand under oath. We are going to have you plead guilty to something else. But the prosecution is the one that has to do it. The agreement has to be in writing, usually approved by the court. Immunity can be given to a witness over their objection, right? The witness shows up and says, yeah, I'm not going to testify. My attorney says I got this Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and so I'm not going to say a word unless, prosecutor, you give me immunity. And they say, okay, fine, because you're a lying scumbag piece of garbage, but we want to get that bigger lying scumbag piece of garbage. So they give him immunity and say, anything you testify to, we're not going to prosecute you for that. Okay? So that's where that is. Hopefully that answers your question. What's the other one? Kumi B? Super chat?
That's another one.
How long do you think the Bryan Kohberger trial will be? Love your coverage of this case. Well, I'll be honest with you. You would think, hey, I got a quadruple homicide. Well, so let's just kind of take this through its natural junction. You got to seat the jury. In most cases, that's going to take a day or two. And let's face it, it's probably not going to be up there in old Moscow, Idaho, the appropriate jurisdiction. So once you get the jury, let's just assume you take a couple of days to get a jury. That's all it really should take, particularly if you move it out of state. You heard about the case? Yeah, I've heard about the case. You made any decisions? No, not yet. You get the jury. You got a couple of days there. Opening statements. We can already tell you what the opening statement is going to be for the prosecution. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have a heavy burden to bear. It's called proving our case beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's one that we gladly accept, and we are going to meet that burden. And let me give you a roadmap of what you're going to hear. On November 13th of 2022, these young 4 college students were going about their day, and throughout the evening, guess what? They all died. And we believe the man that did it is sitting right over there in his suit that he has right there. Take a look at him. He may look like a well-cut, clean-cut guy, but in reality, he's a cold-blooded killer. And how do we know that? Because we have his DNA. Now the defense is going to get up there and try to say, no, it doesn't mean anything, but it does. All right? We're going to prove it was there, and they have no plausible explanation as to why his DNA was there because he's the killer. Opening statement lasts a couple of minutes. We'll give him an hour for opening statement. Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kohberger has been wrongfully accused. All it takes is an allegation to get through those doors. But now they got to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you hear the evidence, their evidence is going to fail. Why do we know that? We know that this house there in Moscow, Idaho, where these 4 Young college students passed away in this tragic death, but Mr. Kohberger had nothing to do with it. You're going to hear from DNA experts how quickly and easily DNA is transferable to other things and people. And we're going to explain how that took place. But all we know is Bryan Kohberger wasn't there. Now they're going to say this and that, whatever else. But ladies and gentlemen, he's a college student. He's a night owl. He can do whatever he wants. And even if his car was in that general vicinity of this party house, like there are lots of parties in college towns, guess what? It doesn't mean that he's a killer. You're going to hear about their rush to judgment of Bryan Kohberger. That's what you're going to hear about, ladies and gentlemen, a rush to judgment and find him not guilty. Boom. That's it. All right. So that took, DNA or, takes an hour for the defense. Call your first witness. They call the police officer, arrive on scene. What'd you do? Oh, well, I talked to the surviving roommates. They were there. And I went inside and I observed this. And, do you have body cam footage? I sure do. Why don't you walk me through it? All right, now let's go ahead and play the body cam and walk me through it again. That will take the longest. How long is the Bryan Kohberger trial going to take? In any other jurisdiction, a quadruple homicide, 2 to 3 weeks max. In Idaho, from what we've seen with the Lori Vallow, let's go 6-8 weeks. I just hope it is televised, okay? So that we can once again see it. What troubles me about all of these cases is the willingness of the prosecution to not want to show the world their case. I don't get it. I don't understand it. They work for the public. They should be the first ones to say, we got nothing to hide. We're going to bring it all. And at the end of the day, we're going to convict the guy that they didn't want to do it. And not sorry when it comes to people in a homicide case having to testify as to what they saw. Not sorry that people that don't want anything to do with this particular case have to testify. Don't care. They have to testify, whether for the prosecution or the defense, they have to come. Okay? It's part of being a witness in a homicide case. No different if you were in a car accident and something terribly tragic happened. You have to testify. You have to come to court. What'd you see? Sorry, I know it's tough. It's emotional for you, but that's it. Doesn't matter. What'd you see? Tell your story. You can get done with it. You need a little therapy later. Snap out of it. Okay? I'm sorry. Bad things happen in life, but guess what? As I heard a prosecutor say, yeah, really sorry about the photographs you have to see, but hey, it's a homicide case. So get over it. All right. Remember the super chat there, Frank? Camera during the Monica days would have made her a star. Just saying. Mari Stark. Yes, cameras during the Monica Lewinsky days would have made her a star. She would have been, could you imagine her social media following at that time? She'd be a rock star. She could open an OnlyFans page. I mean, now what? Monica Lewinsky's in her late 40s, early 50s. And I don't think anybody can ever get over old Monica Lewinsky. I mean, just heck, I think I was early 90s, I think, wasn't it? When she was I remember I was on active duty at the time, was my recollection, because they were talking about the blue dress. And yeah, Monica Lewinsky.
95.
I mean, 95? Okay, that's when it all started, yeah. But then the impeachment came later. Yeah.
So
Kenneth Starr.
97.
Okay, yeah, that'd be about right. I was on active duty. Yeah, because I remember it. We were prosecuting and defending adultery cases in the military because it's still a crime under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And then the old commander-in-chief. Yep. It wasn't an ethical thing we had to deal with. We were just told to do what we needed to do, which was either to prosecute or defend the defend the case. That was my first experience with cell phone tower records. There was a case we were defending. It was a couple of senior enlisted personnel who were both married, and they were having a little secret rendezvous, and they were tracking cell phone towers where they literally met. First experience back in the early 90s, even before like real text messages kind of stuff. Tracked them. I remember thinking, this is junk science. This can't be real, but it put them close enough, and it came in, and now look at it. Nobody even cares about the cell phone data stuff anymore. It just comes in. So got to lay the foundation. But anyway, there you go. All right. So there's Bryan Kohberger. If somebody's got the real truth as to what was the motive, was it just rejected guy? I mean, you would think the rejected guy would be like, oh, I'll show you. I'm going to go solve the biggest. I mean, I don't get it. Like, some people are like, well, he was trying to prove he was the smartest guy in the world. Okay. Just, I don't get it. Just, it doesn't make sense to me why he would do it. No one's giving me a good explanation. Not that they have to. People do terrible things all the time. They have no good reason about it. Heck, look at our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Every day, do those people have any good reason for doing what they're doing? No. Like our dumb criminals today, little, open air romantic interlude with children around. Impulse control issues. What can you do? All right. We talked a little bit about it. Let's go back to it here. Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. Chad Daybell, they're ramping up. Chad Daybell, through his attorney, Mr. Pryor, has filed several motions. We talked about a little bit, basically saying, hey, you can't kill my client just because he waived his right to speedy trial. And Lori Vallow got her death penalty sentencing enhancer thrown out because she wouldn't waive speedy trial. And since, Chad Daybell wanted to make sure his attorney was ready and effective to be effective counsel under the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution, you should not prejudice him for that. And therefore, Judge, you should dismiss it. What do you think? Do you think it's a valid argument? I mean, there is kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Fundamental fairness. I mean, as Mr. Pryor put in the motions that he filed, one of his motions is basically, hey, throughout the trial of Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell's wife, that she was the mastermind of all of this. And if she's the mastermind and she didn't get the death penalty for 3 people, why should this stupid slug looking of a client, Chad Daybell, not get the death penalty? He should be spared as well. I've always said from day one, heck, I could have gone and tried that case within 6 months. I just didn't think it was that difficult. It never has been. It is not. You saw the trial of Lori Vallow. Was it that complicated? No. Your kids are missing. You got no good excuse for it? Okay. They basically said Alex Cox is the one that did all the dirty work. He's dead. Chad Daybell's defense has always been, hey, man, I was married to my wife a long time. I meet this, Lori Vallow. She's, attractive, blonde. She rocks my world. And, sure, her brother and her were a little weird, a little close at times. Not going to lie, it was a little weird, right? But I didn't do anything. And she lied to me. And then when I thought things were getting really weird, I talked to a lawyer. He's like, keep your mouth shut. And the next thing you know, here I am defending myself on multiple murder counts. And, I think they killed my wife too. I mean, that should be the defense for Chad Daybell. Wasn't me. Lori and Alex did it. had no idea what they were doing because she is a manipulative woman and she wanted me so much that she had to do it. She got Alex to do it without my knowledge. And that whole raccoon thing about shooting raccoons on the property really happened. Really, really happened. That's their defense. Crazy woman got her brother to kill her 2 kids, and Chad Daybell's wife, boom, simple, that's it. Didn't have any knowledge of it. And once I figured out what the heck was going on, I was so relieved that I'm in custody. You notice I never tried to get out of custody, not even once, because she and her brother are dangerous. And who knows what else she could have done out there to me. I'm husband number 5. 3 of them are dead. I didn't want to be number 4. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Simple defense. And it probably would have worked if they'd gone to trial within 6 months of the indictment. But they continued it, and then Lori Vallow got competent again, and then she was like, let's go to trial. Let's do this thing. The government wasn't ready. The government took a year and a half. Was it 3 years, I think, from the time start to finish or something like that, from the time the kids disappeared? And the prosecution still wasn't ready. They couldn't even figure out until their last witness in the case that they had charged it under the wrong subsection of the statute. And here they are now. Instead of going back to the grand jury, judge, just let us make a minor change. Like, I don't know how they do things in Idaho. I've looked. Apparently, it's no big deal. Everywhere else, you don't amend an indictment like that. You go back and you amend it. And a substantive change is a different subsection of the statute. In this little criminal defense attorney's world, that warrants a superseding indictment. All right, let me see if we can get a couple of comments here. BTK, we got, let's see here. Glad Scott is not Chad's attorney. Yeah, you're right, because we'd win. All right, I was telling this story to the lovely Miss Kristen the other day. So I go up to this court appearance, and it's a life. I mean, I've represented this family. Everybody just kind of seems to get in trouble. Nothing serious. Very good people. And we're sitting there still waiting on the DA. And we're talking. And she's like, I said, the conversation comes up that, hey, we sent somebody else to you, Scott. We appreciate you. Really great. I'm like, well, thanks. I appreciate that. I really do. We try to do a good job for everybody. And, I got a great team of attorneys here. And, usually between, 4 or 5 of us, we can always figure something out. And the client's mother, it was the client's mother. The client was sitting next to him. The client's mother goes, yeah, I told him Scott's a little pricey, but he usually gets a pretty good result. And I'm like, that's the nicest thing you've ever told me. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever told me. Yes, expensive, but worth it, ladies and gentlemen. That's when you hire a good attorney. Expensive, but worth it. Bottom line, that's what you got to do. Okay. And somebody asked, do I really need an attorney? I said, man, I tell people all the time, I don't care whether you hire me or somebody else. You need to go get yourself an attorney. How do you know? The prosecutor's not your friend. The prosecutor is not there to help you out and say, hey, you seem like a really good guy. And, I was really looking at this case, but, I can't prove it. But I'd really like to get a conviction either way, because they keep all these stats on me of how many cases are filed and how many are dismissed. And me as a young prosecutor, if I get too many cases that I'm dismissing, they're going to think that I'm not doing my job. What can you do? Not expensive? No, they said you're pretty pricey. That's what they said. You're a little pricey, but you always get a good result. That's worth it. I guess it's not expensive. It's just worth it. Anyway. So yeah, nicest thing anybody ever said to me. A little expensive, but you usually get a good job, good result. I'm like, brought a little tear to my eye. Really did. Brought a little tear right there. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh, nice thing anyone's ever said to me in a while. Worth every penny of it. Do I really need an attorney? Yes. And my plane really needs some maintenance. Do I really need an attorney? And yes, my plane needs some plane maintenance. That's funny. Let's put that up. Do I really need an attorney? Yes, my plane really needs some maintenance. Well, I won't even go into all that, but no, it's Crime Talk 1. It's all good. It's all good. But yes, it is what it is. You know, think about all the things in life that you have paid for, right? And you think, oh, I'm not going to spend that much money for it. I can get, I can buy 10 pairs of shoes if I didn't have to pay, this exorbitant price for this one pair of leather shoes. And then you get that one pair of leather shoes. I don't know, like let's say like a pair of Gucci's. Okay. And then you think, oh my gosh, this is the most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever worn in my life. And I'm not joking. Okay. It's worth it. There's certain things you don't go cheap on, right? Travel, your attorney, your CPA, your shoes, and your suits. There you go. Oh, and your airplane. Don't go cheap on your airplane too, because could save your life someday. But yeah. So anyway, thing that brought a tear to my eye. Yeah, he's a little pricey, but he always gets a good result. Oh, I wanted to hug her. And she's gonna say, a little pricey, but I got her case dismissed, her daughter's case dismissed. So clearly, best attorney in the world. And yes, Annabelle, yes, you are. You totally correct, Annabelle. You get what you pay for. Bottom line, yes, you get what you pay for. Let's see, probate. If someone begs you not to hire an attorney, you hire an attorney. Yes. It's kind of like when they say it's not about the money, it's all about the money, right? Bitter Sweetheart 46 and 2. Probate. Oh, you don't need anything to worry about. Don't worry about it. We got this. What do we need to file all those forms with and list the amount of assets and all that stuff? Don't worry about it. Yeah. Someone tells you don't get an attorney, get yourself an attorney. Melody says Chad Daybell is guilty. Lori, Chad Booth, Chad, both guilty. One going to blame the other. There you go. We have the entire audio of the Lori Vallow trial up. And I hate to badmouth other attorneys, but what's the word I'm looking for? Wasn't great attorney job. Frankly, on either side. In just my opinion, they could say, hey, Scott, you're the biggest bag of trash ever. I'd love to see you ask a question or two. Actually, I did. I said I would do this if I was handling the case. You could have asked a couple of questions, but basically it was, Chad, really? I would be blaming Chad all over the place. He had all these followers. He had all these people, but they were almost making fun of Chad. He couldn't get enough followers for his 144,000 Walking Dead for any reason. You know what I mean? It wasn't great lawyering. And I mean no disrespect. And maybe that's just their style. I just thought, you got a woman charged with 3 deaths, 2 including their kids. Now, don't get me wrong. I think she's involved in it. And I think totally Alex Cox did it at her direction. And what Chad knew or didn't know, we'll wait to see. But, under the whole conspiracy theory, you're only still responsible for what you knew you were going to do. Chad's going to say, my conspiracy was I wanted to be with her. That's all. But it never meant killing anybody. And then I kept my mouth shut. I should have told somebody I feel terrible about it. But I did not kill those kids. I did not know what was going on. I thought it was a little weird. Don't get me wrong. Kids are dead. Hey, is there any reason why you're not tearful? Should we look for the kids? I mean, it's what? I don't know. I think you could put up a viable defense for Chad Daybell. Ladies and gentlemen, he's too stupid. He's too stupid to harm anybody. The manipulative, the conniving one was Lori Vallow and her brother. Let's face it, they were a little too close, if you know what I mean. Little weird, just saying how close they were. I think you can make a case for Chad Daybell. And let me just throw this out there. In all honesty, the best attorney that I have seen in the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell case has been Mr. Pryor. And that was at the preliminary hearing. He's the only one that went to preliminary hearing, and he knew he wasn't going to get the case thrown out. But you could tell he was a trial attorney. He's been there before. He's confident. He doesn't give a patootie as to what anybody else thinks of him in that room. He's going to go out there and he's going to try his case, and he's got his theory of defense, and he's going to go forward with it. And he's not worried about upsetting the district attorney or the judge, right? And being Mr. Polite. He's going to get up there and zealously represent his client, because I assure you, clients certainly like it when you get up there and zealously represent them. And they believe that you are fighting for them versus, Judge, I object. I don't think. No, Judge, I object. Hearsay, lack of foundation. And they know that you mean business. And guess what? The judges know after a while, you know what? God, that Reich guy, he may know what he's talking about. And you see the little clerks over there. Oh my God, I think Scott knows what he's talking about. Oh my gosh. Don't let the other stuff in, Judge. Little clerks sending their little notes up. He's right. He's right. And under 801 D2E, this was impermissible, and there should have been a pretrial determination whether this came in, and he asked for it, and you didn't give it. So, Judge, don't let anything else in. Oh, because he knows what he's doing, right? It's like anything, right? You go to trial, a real trial. Okay, I've said this before. I'm going to offend a lot of people. So you're prepared to be offended, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone can be an attorney. Heck, I think I could teach you to pass the bar exam. Give me a week. I could explain it to you. Okay? Then, so everybody's an attorney. And when you're sitting behind your computer, I'm writing and drafting documents. Hell, there's not even going to be a need for most attorneys anymore, because it's all going to be ChatGPT. It's going to be, what is the proper force majeure clause that would be effective in 50 states? And it's going to come up with it. Now, you're still going to need an attorney to proofread it and double check it, because the old garbage in, garbage out, that's the way it works with that ChatGPT stuff. But then you got litigators, okay? And let me explain what a litigator is. Litigator usually works at a big old law firm. They're either a plaintiff's law firm, and they sue people, slip and falls, car accidents, mass torts. And don't get me wrong, there's a couple of very good litigators / trial attorneys, okay? Because there's a difference between a litigator and a trial attorney. And then the other litigators are like big insurance defense people, right? They do civil work. They're litigators. And they don't go to trial that often. And if they do, it's, you didn't disclose this one page. Therefore, we want sanctions and costs. And they file motions back and forth. And I hate civil. Don't get me wrong, my firm does civil. We got civil attorneys. But God, ugh, it's just a war of attrition. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. You could go try the darn case in less time than it takes to prepare the initial disclosures, the interrogatories, the depositions. Go try the case. All right. Why do you need 4 depositions on a little car accident case? You don't. Maybe the person that was driving, what were you doing? You're distracted? Yes. Okay. Great. Hey, doctor, you say the permanently disabled. Really? Did you consider this? Because my doctor says he wasn't. That's it, right? Litigators. They don't really settle. And you notice the big ones always settle, right? They do. Then you get in the criminal defense world. All right. Then you start talking about true trial attorneys. They go to trial. And sometimes they got good facts. Sometimes they got not so great facts. But you know what? They go try the case. Because we're talking about somebody's freedom, their liberty, right? We're not talking about money. Oh, I want $100,000 for the case. I'll pay you $95,000. Well, you don't go spend $40,000 on experts when you're just a few $1,000s away. You settle, you split the difference, and you take the money and you go. But when somebody says, yeah, you know what? The prosecutor says, I'm going to give your client a deal today, and he's only got to go to prison for 40 years. What a deal. And your client says, yeah, no, that's not much of a deal. I can probably get that by going to trial and losing. So, you know what? I'm going to take my chances. There you go. So you go try the case. Sometimes you get your teeth kicked in. Sometimes you make a great appellate record. And sometimes you win. But it's like anything in life. You know, when you're a young attorney, anything you're doing young doctors, young nurses, young lawyers, anything young, you're making mistakes. But as you get older, you make a lot less mistakes. And you just get good at it, right? I had to go do a trial. It was a while back, but most of the stuff I do is in, you know, it's felonies. It's people going to prison for a long time. If we lose, federal court, serious consequences, etc. And one day I had to go cover a quick trial. It was, you know, it was a one-day deal in county court. You know, there's like 10 pages of discovery. Like, let's go try it. Offer sucks. Let's go do it. And we wound up winning. And it wasn't because the facts were any good. I mean, it was just, I had more experience. The young prosecutor had no idea what was coming at them. Your Honor, Mr. Reich keeps objecting. He keeps objecting. And I can't ask my questions. He's interrupting my flow. And the judge says, well, I am sustaining his objections. So move along, ask your next question. And the young DA, she was going to cry. And, you know, but it was probably the day that she learned the most about being an attorney in court. It's not going to come easy. The guy on the other side, or the woman on the other side, the counsel on the other side, is going to do everything they can to win for their client legally and ethically, which is knowing the rules. You know, I'm going to object. Lack of foundation, hearsay. Nope, they can't bring that in. 702 disclosure, not in the 702 disclosure. But you know what? Like I said, that young attorney will learn more by that experience, by getting her, you know, teeth kicked in, than any of their wins. It's true, and it's the best learning experience for anyone. Even now, every time I go do a trial, I still walk out of there thinking, man, I learned something. Ooh, or I wouldn't do that again. It's just that simple. But there's a difference. Anyone be an attorney. Anybody can be an attorney. Just about anybody can be a litigator. You know, a bunch of paper pushing back and forth. You know, liar, liar, pants and fire. Oh, you didn't turn this over to me. Oh, I'm going to go to get sanctions. You know, criminal. You know, fine, whatever. Let's just go to trial. Let's go do it. It'd be less time. Let's go do it. That's the difference between a litigator. Okay, litigator, trial attorney. And hey, the true test of any trial attorney is when you represent the worst of the worst, you know, and you get up there and you do what you have to do to protect your client and to preserve their rights, because you're protecting everybody else's rights out there in the world, because I'm telling you, I've said it once and I'll say it again. If we let the government railroad guilty people, they will do it to innocent people as well. And all those cases that go up to the United States Supreme Court that you hear about started with some, the criminal cases started with some little line attorney, whether it's private counsel, public defender, court-appointed private counsel, saying, government, you can't do that, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. And I assure you, there is nothing more satisfactory in life. Greatest satisfaction you can get is when you get a case where you lost and you're like, man, I should quit being an attorney. Obviously, I suck at being an attorney. I can't win a case, because you have those streaks where you're like, I haven't won a case in a while. I need one, right? And I had one, I swear to, true story. True story. I had a case where client was charged with a big white collar theft ring. And he'd gone through a couple of attorneys and, did my job and did what needed to do. And he was found not guilty of the most serious crime, but they had filed habitual counts against the individual as well. So he got maxed. I mean, like, boom, like 96 years, like big number. I had a couple of those, right? In fact, I got one that just came back, but a couple of those where you get like 96 years for your client. You're like, oh my God, 96 years. Oh my gosh. And, you just did your job. You objected, you made your argument. They didn't prove it, boom. And the judge, you like the judge. He's a nice enough guy, but you think he's wrong, but he's the judge. And you literally, and you object every time you do it. Some people, well, I can't object. I'm going to look bad in front of the jury. I don't care. I am preserving my record on appeal. So if I have to object literally to every question, and I have, and guess what? That case went up, reversed. I had greatest feeling ever. And in that particular case, it was even better, sweetheart, because the client, he fired me before sentencing. He grieved me. It went nowhere. He then sued me civilly. That got thrown out. It was completely frivolous. And I was like, screw you, man. Oh, and by the way, yeah, the biggest bag of trash got your case reversed. Had a couple of those. There was one where the judge was so bad, but it goes up. It was like law school 101, gets reversed, comes back, and the DA is like, oh, I just want to dismiss this case. And I was literally like, oh no, I want this case called up on the record. I want the district attorney to admit that they were wrong and the court that they were wrong and that they're not going to re-prosecute this case. I have the email. It's beautiful because everybody thought that me and the co-defendant counsel were a bunch of jerks, bunch of idiots. We're like, Judge, you can't do that. Have you read Crawford Confrontation Clause? Well, I think this is the residual hearsay exception. I think I'm going to allow it in because your client is a piece of scum, Mr. Reich, and we're going to make sure we do everything we can to convict him. Okay, Judge, I object. And I object. And it came back on appeal. And they said, Judge, you were the one that was the idiot and probably the biggest bag of garbage that shouldn't be on the bench. And you should go and you should retire. And oh, Mr. Prosecutor man, who knew that the law wasn't there, but you knew that you had a hack for a judge and you did it anyway. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why there's people like me that do this work to protect all of you, because of those hacks prosecutors and hack judges that don't want to follow the law, that want to get the result that they want and ignore it all. All right. I don't know about you, but I feel better. I really do. And look at that. It's time to end our show. I think we ended it on a happy note, did we not?
Yeah, we got that super chat.
Oh, another super chat before we go. Did she send you a gift basket? No. No. And this is referring to the client that got the case dismissed. Yeah. Did I even get a thank you? No. You would be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, how often that happens. Heck, I got a client that walked on a murder case. Doesn't want to pay his bill. I don't know about you, but if I was looking to spend the rest of my life in prison and the attorney helped me get out of that situation, I'd be saying, here's your money. Here's your money. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But it's just a sign of the times, ladies and gentlemen. The mentality today is, get a case dismissed. You'd think you'd maybe one thank you, just one, not a single one. And I remember I was talking with a friend of mine. I was driving back from the courthouse, and or maybe it was the following day. It's like, how'd the case go? Oh, I got it dismissed. That's great. Oh, that's great. He goes, did the client say thank you? No. He goes, they never do. And it's sad. It's sad. Seriously, when I've had to hire an attorney for anything, what do I do? And I thank you. I know you're busy. I'm trying not to bother you. Is there anything I need to know? That's it. They're like, no, I'll call you when you need to know something. That's it. Have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Sorry we got a little fired up there, but man, geez. Anyway, start talking war stories. Start getting, anyway. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. All our Patreon members are aficionados. We'll see you there in a couple of minutes. See ya.